All right, today we have a very interesting guest that I have not had for a while, and I'm noticing there's a green screen in your background. How you doing, Larry?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. You know what? Interesting is this. I've been looking for someone to talk about cooking. All right, because
Absolutely.
cooking is one of the main. When I was a kid, you know, my uh, my family cook, right? Uh,
Yeah.
traditional Vietnamese food, and I
Okay.
was brought up to try to learn these cooking stuff because nowadays people don't cook anymore. Like
You're absolutely right. It's easier to go pick something up.
exactly people. Well, it's the reason why because I haven't cooked for. I mean, I have cooked here and there, but not like a whole big thing, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
time consuming, right? Because I get pissed off sometimes when I cook a long time, and I'll be rushing food. But what makes you stand out is very interesting that you have a life coaching and home cooking. Can you tell me about that? But before we talk about this, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. So I am Larry Armstead II. I am a spiritual coach and I am a home cook and an author. I'm releasing my first book called "Where's My Pizza," and that'll be out on it'll be out on December the 14th. It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon, or you can go to my website at larry-armstead.com. And the book is just simply about using the art of expectation or the power of expectation to create the life that you've always wanted. So often we hear about, it's the law of attraction. It's the law of attraction, but it always felt like something was missing for me in that. So I heard during my daily meditation, I heard, in life we don't get what we want, we get what we expect. And once I heard that, I began working with people on setting expectations, and that's how this whole book came to be. And also in the back of that book, I have about 12 to 13 different recipes from regions all over the world. It's just different pizza recipes. So as you're reading the book, you can enjoy the pizza. So you're not saying, "Okay, where's my pizza? Can I have some?" As that you actually have recipes in the back of the book where you can create all kind of awesome pizza recipes. So I'd love to see you guys get that book and just enjoy the power of expectation to create the life that you want.
No, thank you so much for that beautiful intro for you. The only reason why I don't do intro because I'm not good at it, but I like other people do it. But the thing is, people forget, right? Because the people forget that we are human beings, right? Think
Yeah,
about this. People always ask me to like go to their website. It's not being mean, or read their book, but people forget. It's not about for me. I need dopamine rush, but it's human connection, right? People forget
absolutely.
People forget that when you first come, what do you do when you come and ask a stranger? You ask them a bunch of questions that you were curious, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But people forget that. So let's talk about how did you get in? Because this is all about the things that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can talk about spiritual stuff too. This
Okay,
all ties to whatever,
okay.
and we're gonna talk about your book. Um, Now, how did you get into cooking or pizzas and stuff like that? Can you tell me the history and how it happened?
Absolutely. So I was a little boy. I was maybe about 6 years old, and my mother told me, she put me in the kitchen. She put me in the kitchen and she said, I want to show you right now, while you're this young, how to cook. So when you get older, you don't have to rely on anybody else to do your cooking for you. And it was there that my love of food, my love affair with food just started and blossomed. I became obsessed with cooking. I became obsessed with watching cooking TV shows. Anytime anyone was in the kitchen, most little kids want to go outside and play. I wanted to be in the kitchen, creating something, making something. I was curious to see how, you can take flour and you can take butter and you can take eggs, and then this turns somehow into some sort of pastry or a cake. It always fascinated me. So I wanted to know how it worked. So that's how my love affair with food came to be.
Did you watch what's his name, Guy Fieri? All the
I
other
No, I did not watch Guy. Emerald was actually the person that I watched first, and then from Emerald it was Rachel Ray. Emerald, I loved Emerald's Bam. I loved that so much, and then his show got moved from the Food Network to the Cooking Channel, and so I didn't have access to the Cooking Channel. And Rachel Ray, it was coming up through the ranks, and I began watching 30-minute meals with her, and I was captivated. and she introduced me to a whole different set of flavor profiles and herbs and ways of cooking, and she showed me things that I still use to this day.
Ooh, I love. Yeah, I remember I used to watch Rich. I probably I want to know the other guy because I don't know the other guy name, but I know Rachel. Where I used to watch her when she do the cooking.
Yeah,
Beautiful. But the thing is, when I was a kid, it was I was trying to figure out how because I'll be watching my mom cook, and I
yeah.
was like, how do you do this? Like sometimes do you actually? How did you begin? Like I know you said you were in the kitchen while kids playing outside. But the thing is, were you frustrated sometime when you were a kid? You're trying to figure things out, and because for me it was right. I was like, how do you make this and not be making it mess? Like it's a mess. Like
Yeah, yeah. See, for me, I was always a very inquisitive and like, if I could see you do it, then I could do it. So one of my favorite stories to tell is I was watching my sister Shannon create scrambled eggs. That was my first dish that I ever did was scrambled eggs. And there was, we had a stove and we had a sink, and the sink was kind of like right by the stove. And when she was making her scrambled eggs, she actually broke one of the eggs. She dropped it on the floor as an accident, and so every time I made scrambled eggs, I thought that was the way you made them. So I took an egg from the carton, I dropped it on the floor because I thought that was part of the process. And then I went ahead and cracked the eggs into the bowl, and then I made scrambled eggs. And I cleaned up the egg that was on the floor, just like she did. It took maybe about 6 months for my mom to actually see me making scrambled eggs one day and see me throwing an egg on the floor. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "That's the way you make scrambled eggs." And she was like, "No." And then I told her the story, and she got a great kick out of that.
yeah, it's fun. Oh man. Like, wait, did you ever went to like culinary arts or it's actually home cooking?
I never went to culinary school. It's all home cooking, but I do have on my team who actually helped write some of the recipes for the book. I do have a chef that's on my team. So she's been kind of giving us once over to my recipes, and she said, "You know what? Your recipes are so good that you kind of didn't need culinary school." She said, "You really know your flavor profiles." So I took that to be a great compliment.
Very interesting. Very because I took culinary arts, but it was helpful, but it wasn't helpful. I mean, I learned because the way that or American cook is very different from the Asian culture, right? Because we
Yeah.
deal with the rice and the how to steam the rice and how to make egg rolls and stuff like it's very different because it's like I think you know how to make like egg salad and all those what's it called? I can't remember
Tuna
egg salad.
salads and egg salads, potato
Yeah,
salads.
chicken
Yeah, yeah,
salad,
yeah.
yeah, right. And I tried that. I was like, it's like totally vastly different food. Like, so can you tell me what type of food? Because I love food. I just want to know what type of food you can make.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so what I'm doing is I love sauces, right? Sauces will make a dish. You can take one sauce and you can apply it to chicken, you can apply it to beef, you can apply it to fish, you can apply it just to vegetables, and you can completely transform the entire dish. So I am just known for making all kinds of sauces and marinades that you can use for your dishes. And then also when you talk about some of your Vietnamese dishes and things like that, I love cooking Vietnamese and Asian food. It is actually if I'm going out to eat or if I'm going to do something at home, it is my go-to. It is even above American food, it is my number one food to go to. And I actually got the chance to make some authentic fried rice. I was so happy with it because the Americanized fried rices that I had tasted, the rices never had that quality that you get in Vietnamese cooking. The rice was always too mushy and was never quite firm enough. And so I sat there and I brainstormed and I did a little research, and I took just regular rice. I did not go to our Asian market, which is just right up the road from me, but I took the rice that I had. I took the rice that I had and I spread it out thin on a cookie sheet in an oven that was about 250 degrees, and I just dried the rice out for about 20 minutes. And then I went ahead and tossed it with everything, and it was perfect with the sesame oil and with the scallions and everything. It was perfect. And I was like, this is what I've been missing. So yes, I love doing Vietnamese and Asian foods as well.
That touched my heart, man. Thank you, man. No, so here I remember in my memory, right, back in the day when I was in boarding school and I took a trade school for culinary arts, right?
Yeah.
and it will piss me off. Like all these guys are trying to make fried rice. I was like, no, that's not how you make it. Stop. And then I have to show them this is how you make fried rice, okay? Because for me, I make a little bit fried rice a little bit different from people. For me, it had to be balanced, right? Like some
Right.
people do it with salt and but I balance out with a little bit of sugar. It's not. Some people think it's weird, but it created a balance because some people would not put. Because I remember back, I was working at a Japanese restaurant.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I one of the he taught me how to make sushi. But people like one of the chef make it too salty for the fried rice.
Yeah.
But for do you when it comes to cooking, I don't know if you have to does it take long for you or like do you get pissed or like it's how do you because you have to if you're cooking for a whole bunch because you're cooking for a whole bunch of people like it has to be quick and so how you deal with that?
With me, I grew up in a family. I was the youngest of six, but there were 8 people in our house with my parents. So I have never learned how to just cook for one person or 2 people. Anytime I cook, it is a large meal. I just can't make small meals. But when I'm when I'm doing my cooking and everything like that, I have so many things going on at the same time. Like for example, if I'm making some sort of a sauce or marinade that calls for maybe I'm just going to write something off the top of my head here. If it calls for maybe Greek yogurt and dill and let's see, scallions and a little bit of parsley, I can't just sit there and say, okay, I have the scallions done. Now what? I have to got the scallion. I have to have everything cooked, everything cut, everything prepared, and then dump everything into the bowl. And if there's some sort of like let's say I'm going to toss it on maybe some orzo pasta, which would be really good with what I just said. And add a little salt and pepper to that if anyone's listening for that. But if I'm going to toss it in orzo pasta, I also have the pasta pot boiling with water while I'm preparing all that other stuff. So I'm saving myself time instead of chopping stuff, sitting in here, waiting for the water to come up to boil. I'm kind of thinking ahead. So when you're cooking, a good tip is always to think ahead. So kind of roadmap your meal in your head. So if you're going to be, putting something on the stove, we know that pasta is going to take a while because that water has to come up, or potatoes are going to take a while to boil. So that stuff should probably go on first. If you're going to be cooking with seafood, that stuff cooks really quickly. So you can kind of let that hang out for a bit. If you're going to be cooking with a thick cut of beef, for example, you want to probably get that on really quickly and maybe get your oven on just in case you want to cook that all the way through in the center. So it's just about kind of road mapping where you're going and then seeing, okay, what do I need to do first? So you don't spend 3 hours in the kitchen. You can get out of there in 15 to 45 minutes.
Oh, that's a good tip, man. Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Oh,
You're very welcome.
I noticed. What's up with the green screen?
So the green screen is I'm creating a couple videos for my website, and I wanted just to add a different screen to the back. I've never messed with the green screen technology before, so I went down to just the local fabric store and got a piece of green cloth and just been messing around with it to see what I come up with.
Oh, okay.
So I'll let you guys know when or if I'm going to use that.
Well, but you do have a couple of videos, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you go to my website at larryarmstead.com, you'll see all that stuff there.
I will after we're done with the interview. I can just send me a couple of like links, and I'll send them. Put it in the description on my YouTube channel, so that'll be great.
Absolutely.
What was it? What is your favorite food, or do you have any?
I love Asian food. There is
But what type though? What type though?
Okay, so I love Japanese food. I love Japanese food. There is a salad that I've had, and I've been trying to replicate the recipe, and I'm so close to getting it right. There was a restaurant here that is now closed, but they used to serve it in a martini class, and it was seaweed, and it was a cut of fish. It kind of tastes like salmon the way the texture was. So I'm thinking it was salmon. It wasn't smoked or anything. It was just raw salmon with seaweed, a little bit of sesame seed, and a little maybe tobiko on top. And
Tabiko?
yeah, believe it
What
or
is
not,
Tabiko?
it's
Well, I don't.
yeah, it's just Tabiko. From what I understand, is just the those little red fish eggs that you get on top of sushi. These are sushi
Oh,
rolls. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they had that on top of there. Then there was this awesome ginger sauce that they put on top of there, along with some type of soy. And I'm thinking it was like a tamari, that aged Japanese soy sauce. But I cannot replicate it. I can't find a good tamari around here to actually do that with because I mean the sauce had a bite to it, and I've been trying to replicate that salad because it is a refreshing salad, and I just really loved it. I mean, it also had cucumber in it as well, and it was an amazing salad. And I'm so close to replicating it. If I can get a good tamari, I think I'll be on it.
I'm just like you, man. I've been trying to like. Okay, so I know how to make a couple of sushi. I don't like. Sometimes I don't do raw sushi because most people would say. I would ask them, why don't you like sushi? They say because it's raw. But the thing is, I want to bring people in. It's like you don't have to do sushi raw. You can
Absolutely.
you can do fried rice. You can do like really just anything, but it can be cooked, right?
Yeah.
So I know how to make tempura sushi, but one thing that I want to do is eel sushi, right? Because eel is one of my favorite sushi, but I can't find the those type of sushi or a soft shell crab that I want
Oh,
to.
I live for soft shell crab. Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'd be because back then I used to be a kitchen helper for the Japanese restaurant for the chef. I used to create like tempura shrimp and soft shell crab for the sushi chef.
Yeah.
And after I'm done, I'll be eating them. I was like, bruh, this is good, man. I was like, yeah, man. They know
Yeah,
how
yeah,
to
yeah.
put me on it. But yeah, what was it? Can you give us tips of how to do you taste your food?
I absolutely do. That's the only way you're gonna know if it's good, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
sometimes, but sorry to interrupt. But sometimes people don't taste their food. But yeah, go ahead.
you should always taste your food and make sure you always do it with a clean spoon. I keep in the kitchen just for tasting metal spoons. And so if I dip that spoon down into a pot, I taste it. Okay, it does need salt, it needs pepper. I'm putting that spoon into the sink. I'm not dipping that back into the same pot. I'm using a fresh spoon each time I go back into the pot, right? But make sure that you always taste your food because you can oversalt, and it's a lot easier to undersalt something. I always say if you think you're putting too much in, then listen to that because you might be. Salt half of what you're thinking, taste it. If it needs more, put more in. You could always put more in, but you can never take it out. And so if you put too much in, then you have to readjust your recipe. You have to play with the liquid ratio, and you have to try to get it back up. And you might have had that perfect balance. You might have just needed to add just a hair of salt, and you added too much. So make sure you taste your foods, especially when you're dealing also with some different types of herbs. Like for example, my favorite example of this is saffron. Saffron is an amazing herb to use. It's really fragrant. It's really perfuming, but if you use too much of it, and I mean, saffron comes in a little bitty, just like sprigs. If you use too much saffron, you will taste like you're eating a bowl of potpourri or air freshener. So you got to be very careful when you're putting that in. So you add some, you taste it. You add some, you taste it until it gets to the right balance.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Because I think you know Gordon Ramsay. Everybody know him, right?
Oh, yes. He's one of my mentors. Gordon, if you're watching, hey, call me.
Oh man, this guy. Yeah. There was this one of the video. There was this either I think it was a chef, and he didn't taste his food. It was one of yeah, and he got sued for that. Ooh, and I guess he never tastes his own food, so that's
No,
why.
you have to be when you're cooking. You have to be really careful to taste, and you have to be really careful to smell. Because, for example, your taste and your smell go together. So, for example, if you're getting fresh fish from the fish counter at your local deli or at your local fish counter, fish typically does not have a scent to it. If it has a really pungent or heavy scent to it, that fish is not good. it's old fish that they're trying to sell you, and that's when you'll see the fish get marked down and everything because they're trying to move it. Fish also shouldn't have that slimy touch to it. It should be really slick. It should be really smooth, and it shouldn't leave any film behind. So that's where you have to be really careful and taste your own food because you don't want to send something out that the beef is bad or the pork is bad and you haven't tasted it. You don't want to send that out because it's a reflection on you as a cook.
That's really, and that one I never like think about before. Like, I mean, of course, I know the smell of the fish when it go bad, right? But
Yeah.
which part of do you like to do? Like, cause there's so many cooking, right? Like baking, there's making a sandwich and all these things. Like, what was it? I had trouble making baking baking
Oh
like
yeah.
for cooking. For cookies, I can do right, but
Right. Right.
I can't do for the love of God like uh baking, right? I think my ex would be like better on that one. But the thing is, yeah. So how like which part do you like? Cookies or baking? I mean,
I
baking.
mean, I fell in love with baking years ago. When I was in high school, we had classes called foods, and it was you could take it for all 4 years of high school. And one year was just getting an introduction to the kitchen. Second year was kind of making dishes. Third year was kind of doing more baking, and fourth year was kind of doing more entrees. And I fell in love with the baking gear, but since then, I really don't get the opportunity to do a lot of baking. I enjoy it, but baking is a science. I mean, you add a little bit too much baking powder, and you have completely messed up your cookies because they're that big and they're hard as a brick. So I really enjoy the cooking aspect because with cooking, I'm not the type of person when I cook that I measure anything, so to speak. So when someone says, what's your recipe for this? I can roadmap it for you, and I can give you about what I'm using for these things. So when I've been writing these recipes for this book, I've been paying special attention to that. But typically when I'm cooking, I like quick things. I like marinades. I like sauces because, like you said, we don't have a lot of time. We're really really busy. So I always bring it around to a marinade or a sauce because there's so much you can do. You can throw a sauce into a pasta, and you can also use it, the night before to marinate chicken, and you completely changed your dish altogether. So that is, I enjoy the on top of the stove cooking more, but I really do enjoy baking as well for just the accuracy and the precision of it.
Wow, wow. Well, I mean, at least you, yeah, at least you enjoy cooking. That's why we're here. But the fascinating thing about you is how do you where the spiritual thing came into be? That's the interesting question that I want
Oh
to
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if I actually have two websites. The other one is parallary.com. And there I offer tarot readings and things like that. So kind of a short story of what happened is back in 1999, my oldest brother passed away. And before he passed away, I had a vision of his death about a year before it happened. And I told people about it. And, people were just understandably, no, don't say that no, you'll speak that into existence. Well, it wasn't something that I was looking to speak into existence. It was a vision that was just happening. And then from then when it actually happened, the visions and everything became more frequent. And this is 1999, so the internet is still a little baby at that time, so there's not a lot of information there. So I went to our local library and I just began picking up book after book after book after book to learn as much as I could about that as possible. And that's how that all came to be. And from there, I realized that I had studied a lot, I had done a lot, and I was full of a lot of spiritual wisdom. I was coaching a lot of people on my website and from Reddit and places like that. And it just made sense that I would go ahead and use the degree that I have, which is in sociology, to go ahead and become a spiritual coach. So I do spiritual coaching, advising people. It's not necessarily advice that I'm giving people. It is we're looking at the roadmap of your life, and I'm telling you, not giving you explicit like this is what you should do advice. I'm letting you know what I see, what you could do to probably change your road course or to pull things into focus, and then I use food behind that because food is the one great equalizer, right? Everybody has to eat. So I use food as that one great equalizer to, I've showed you what's going on spiritually with you. I've led you. Now that you're licking your wounds and you're feeling like that you have to do something different, here's a meal that could help you, kind of heal and kind of soothe you as a comfort.
That's very interesting. That's really interesting. It's you don't see that quite often. Let's just say, like I
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
and I don't see that quite often. But what does spiritual mean to you?
Okay. So you just said that question right there is amazing because that is a question. That's the type of question I ask people because you say those blanket terms like spiritual, but what does that mean to you? Because it's going to look very different for you than it's going to look for me, right? So for me, spiritual, I don't know what to call the great energy